Hello and welcome. It's Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable. Every week I discuss the future of the region blessed with hydrocarbon resources. We give time weekly to reflecting on topics relevant to the development of the Niger-Delta and her people. This episode is no different as I'm here once again to focus on how to take this region to a more promising future. Now, the program is sponsored by the operator of the NNPC SPDC Total Energies Ajib Joint Venture, the Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria Limited, headquartered here in Port Harcourt. Thank you for joining. I'm Adedayo Elushakin. For this episode, our topic is preventing tragedy, understanding the dangers of field scooping. Recently, a devastating tanker explosion in Niger State claimed the lives of over 80 people, highlighting the severe risks associated with field scooping. Now, this tragic incident occurred at Dikko Junction in Gurara Local Government Area, leaving a profound impact in the local community and raising serious concerns about public safety. In response to this tragedy, President Bola Tinubu has directed the National Orientation Agency, NOA, to launch a nationwide campaign aimed at raising awareness and educating the public about the dangers of field scooping. Now, throughout this episode, we'll explore the details of the incident, understand the reasons behind field scooping, and discuss the government's efforts to prevent future occurrences. This episode aims to shed light on the importance of safety and awareness and how we can all contribute to preventing such tragedies. So let's get started and let's work together to ensure a safer future for everyone. Again, today, our topic on Canvas is preventing tragedy, understanding the dangers of field scooping. And my guest is Dr. Edward Banigo. Dr. Edward Banigo is the State Director, National Orientation Agency here in Rivers State. Dr. Edward Banigo, hello and welcome to Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's always good to have someone occupying your office on any discourse, really, or almost any discourse of national significance or other significance for that matter.
Yeah.
And I do wish, however, that the circumstances that's led to having you on the podcast were different. Sadly, it's one off the heels of a national tragedy. However, conversations like this must be had as well to ensure that we can put things in place to not have similar national tragedies in the future. But so I'm sure now, more than any other time, for you and your colleagues in the agency, is a very busy one. But you've made our time to be here to help sensitize the public. Thank you for making it here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So let's start from the basics, because let's talk about field scooping. What is field scooping, or at least in the context in which we're having this conversation, vis-a-vis the incident that happened, the unfortunate tragedy in Niger State? What is field scooping, and why do people, members of the Nigerian public, engage in it despite the risks?
Well, thank you for having me. And I want to first commiserate with the families, those who've lost their life in the tragic incident that happened in Gurara Local Government Area of Niger State. It's quite saddening. My heart and thoughts go out to the families. Now, your question, fuel scooping, what is it? Generally, there's fuel scooping, maybe in two contexts, the legal and illegal, really. But in the context we are discussing now, fuel scooping is essentially the transfer of petroleum product from one container perhaps to another. And in this case, we are talking about uh, the taking of fuel or petroleum product from, say, a fallen tanker, a bus pipeline, or similar situation illegally by individuals who are not authorized to do so. So, in essence, fuel scooping is stealing fuel from a fallen tanker, from a pipeline, or from a similar facility, by an unauthorized person with maybe the wrong tools and perhaps equipment too. Yes, that's maybe a layman's definition. Just stealing fuel where you see a falling tanker or a bus pipeline.
Now, in my question, I mentioned risks. There are certainly risks associated with this. What I want to ask you now is, what are the most severe dangers or risks associated with fuel scooping, both for the individuals who engage in it and even the large environment?
Generally, fuel, petrol, and similar fuel generally are essentially inflammable. So, a lot of risks is associated with fuel scooping because these are activities carried out by those who are not equipped or those who are not equipped or trained to handle this. So, the most severe, of course, is death. Because explosion could occur while doing that. Because any spark could cause an explosion and that will lead to loss of life. Apart from that, we have burns, we have breathing problems, because, the fuel itself is toxic, the vapor is toxic. So there are some health challenges associated with scooping this fuel. It could even lead to fainting because if you're in an enclosure and maybe if you are in an enclosure, this could even lead to fainting. So there's a lot of consequences, associated with fuel scooping for the individual, which ultimately could lead to death. Then for the community too, for the environment, of course, there are consequences. Because when there is this explosion, we have damage to the environment through fire incidents and all that. Then, of course, for the community too, there could be a loss of livelihood, because wherever these things occur, um, shops are burned, sometimes farmlands are burned, and of course, people are displaced. So it has far-reaching consequences.
Now,
For
since there are obvious dangers and risks involved, that takes us back to the an element in the first question I asked. Why then do people engage in fuel scooping?
well, people will say poverty, but I think one for me there are two factors that are responsible for that: greed, one, the ignorance, two. You know, those who engage in this are driven by greed. They just see another man's property and they want to profit from it. So greed is one of them. Then, of course, ignorance, because some of them, because if you check the pictures, we see you see even children as part of those who were affected by. So, which means ignorance. Some of them are ignorant of the danger involved in scooping, doing what they were doing. Then, of course, greed. I say greed because there were some people too who you cannot say they are poor. They have, meaningful means of livelihood, and yet they still engage in this kind of act. Some of them are even aware of the danger, but because they were looking at the pecuniary benefit they could get from scooping fuel, so they just joined. So greed and ignorance are the major driving force. Yes, people will say poverty, but if you check it out, this is not the first time this is happening.
No?
It has happened before, even when petrol was even 16 naira, is it 16 naira? Yes, people were still involved in this kind of a thing. So I don't think poverty is the major cause. Well, it could be, how do they put it now? It could be necessary, but not sufficient to cause people to do that.
Now, the dangers aside, because besides maybe fuel tankers or tankers laden with fuel or other petroleum products falling over and spilling its contents, you have other incidents involving other merchandise as well. Heavy duty vehicles transporting some produce, could be agricultural produce or manufactured items, falling over and spilling its contents in a public place. And then people go rushing there to avail themselves of those things. Now, in that scenario, is that theft? Is that stealing? Because I mean the commodity is there. It has fallen on the road. It is staring everybody in the face. And I am a passerby. If I just stretch one hand and grab one carton,
Yeah.
one item, there is, can we call that stealing? It's not just helping myself.
But you see, that is the problem we have in this country now. People want to whitewash crime, evil. What even the like I told you, fuel scooping is stealing. One, the petrol is not your own. It's owned by maybe one businessman who wants to make profit.
But it's washing away anyway.
It's wash,
It is going to waste.
you're not trained to handle that. It's a dangerous product. You're not trained to handle that. If we want to
Risk aside,
yes,
the commodity is wasting away. So why not just put it to some good use?
no, well, for petrol, no, call those who can handle it. But for the question you asked about some other merchandise, yes, that one is just we have problem with our value system. We have real problem with our value system. Before now, when things like that occur, people will show sympathy. They will help, the maybe the owner to recover some of these things. But today, with this entitlement mentality, people just think, oh, it is an opportunity to grab. It is stealing, and people will tell you they are smart. They are just helping themselves and all that. No, if there's a fallen tanker, a fallen trailer, and all that, it is not your business to go and appropriate another man's property. It is stealing, And I think we should begin to see it in that light, that people are just stealing other people's property. So if we see it that way, then perhaps maybe we can change our attitude towards. It happens all over the place. We saw the other time even. People cutting away cows, somewhere in the north, you see trailers of rice, people attacking trailers. So this is pure stealing. That's not no other way to explain it.
It's not helping yourself.
No, it's not helping. Helping yourself how? You can't be. There's no two ways of. If you want to do the right thing, you must do it rightly. If you want to help yourself the proper way, not by stealing. So I think we should go back to our value system so that if we really want to change some of this action, because from our value system, then of course our behavior manifests.
I think it's important to note this example. We'll come back to the incident in Niger State and the offshoot of that, because that's what's engendered, if you will, this conversation. I remember some years ago, there was an incident close to the University of Port Harcourt. Some heavy-duty vehicle was transporting cartons of a certain noodle brand, and it fell over. And reportedly, students of, no offense to any Uniport students or members of the alumni who might be watching this right now.
I'm one too.
No offense to you, inclusive. And reportedly, at the time, the students were calling each other, asking each other to show. It don't happen.
It don't happen.
So come help themselves.
Yes.
So such incidents, stealing as well.
No other way, no other word for it. It is stealing. See, we have turned everything on its head in this country. That is why people use the word smart. This guy is smart. Even when he's stealing. This man see road. Even when somebody is stealing government money, theft, people will say this governor see road. Because of the perverse nature of our value system now. It is stealing. The Indomie belonged to a businessman. It's not for you to go and steal. It's not for you to go and help yourself. If there's an accident, the law enforcement people are there. The police is there. You can report that. If you want to help, you want to be a law-abiding citizen. If you want to help in any way, report either to the police or some other authorities that are concerned. And that way they can help, and not by stealing. Not only stealing, calling others to join you in stealing. So this is value problem. Because what the university student will not tell me that it's not aware that that's stealing. But because it's driven by greed, of course, you want to do that.
Let's go back to the Niger State incident. Once again, that's what's led to this conversation we're
Yeah.
having today. And for those who may not be aware as to exactly what transpired, can you describe the incidents that transpired leading to the reported deaths of over 80 persons?
Well, from reports reaching us, essentially from SEMA, that is the State Emergency Management Agency, I think that incident occurred on Saturday, 18th. A tanker laden with petrol, I think tumbled at Dikko, is it Dikko Junction? Yes, in Gurara Local Government. Now, an attempt was made to siphon transfer that um, the content of that tanker to another tanker using a generator. So somewhere along the line, I think they spilled gasoline or petrol. Now came in contact with the generator. Generator. Maybe there could be spark or so. So meanwhile, before that time, news had gone around, that there was a spill, a tumble tanker. So the locals, came around to help themselves, as you put it. They came there to help themselves. So I think that generator, from what we hear, caused a spark that caused the explosion. So in that process, many people were caught napping. Leading to the death of over, is it 98 now or so, or 89, about say 80, over 80, because the Federal Road Safety reported that they buried over 80 persons. So I think at 69 badly injured. So and over 20 shops or businesses affected. It could be more, but the initial report says 20 shops. So in all this, I think a human factor is just responsible for this.
I'm glad you used the word factor because
Mm,
that factors into my next question.
mm,
Now, considering initial reports and subsequent assessment of the situation,
mm.
what would we say? What would you say were the main factors that led to this very tragic incident?
Like I said, um, human factor. I would say human factor was the immediate cause. Although there could be, there are other remote causes, of course, maybe carelessness or the road condition, and of course the condition of the vehicle itself. Because the Federal Road Safety Corps came up to say that the trailer was not properly lashed to the tanker. So causing that initial tumbling. So human factor in all, not lashing, not doing the proper thing, and this trailer drivers these days. I'm not too sure they're properly checked, because at some point Nupeng, is it called Nupeng, became so powerful that even when law enforcement, anytime law enforcement wants to check them, they will threaten with strike or some other action. So they are becoming a little bit. I don't want to use the word lawless these days. So they are just people just don't want to monitor them the way it should be. Otherwise, if things were done properly, I think somebody should have spotted that this trailer was not properly lashed to the tanker. So in all this is human error. People will blame, well, bad roads, um, all sort of things. But if you have good judgment too, if the driver exercises good judgment, perhaps this wouldn't have happened.
Please walk with me. I'm going somewhere here, and we'll get to my destination soon.
Okay.
Now, like you identified, there could be several factors involved in all of this. Remote, immediate, all of that. But what would
And
you
maybe future costs.
possibly? Well, hopefully not.
Not.
What would you say are the main factors? I mean, accidents do happen,
Yeah.
and it's not unlikely that we will have accidents again in the future. But my point is, we could have had a trailer or a tanker fall over, even spill its contents, without over 80 people dying. That could have happened because accidents do happen.
Yeah.
So, what could one identify as the major factor here leading to this most unfortunate incident? Maybe
The
maybe a number one factor if we were to rank them.
one, the number one factor I would say is, you mean the trailer tumbling or the number of people dying?
The tragic incident. The tragic incident is not the trailer tumbling. I
Okay.
think the tragic incident is over 80 people dying.
The tragic incident there is, if you want me to, is greed. People just want to steal or want to take what is not theirs. People just want to. It is this sense of entitlement that has created this greedy attitude among most Nigerians. Everybody is looking for opportunities like that. Oh, let me go and take. But people say, "Oh, because fuel is expensive." No, like I told you, we've had this before, even when fuel was cheap. So I think greed and ignorance. But you said I should mention one now. But if you ask me to mention two, greed and ignorance, Dayo, I'm not sure you'll be part of fuel scooping if you see one, because you know the danger. If a trailer tumbles here now, I'm sure you take off, you run away because you know the danger. So these two factors are largely responsible for this.
Mm. Let's talk about response now. How has, I mean, this is, I think, by every yardstick or standard, is a national tragedy.
Yeah.
And I think the federal government, even of Nigeria, has even right up to the president, has identified it as such. What has been government's response to these tragedies, especially the federal government?
Yeah, like you said, it's a national tragedy, a very big tragedy indeed. And that has prompted the federal government to respond accordingly. First, the presidency issued a statement, directing relevant agencies to take necessary action to ensure that those who are injured are taken care of, and to find ways to make sure that things like this do not occur in future. Then, of course, because I talked about this ignorance, the president himself and the commander in chief directed NUA to carry out a robust enlightenment campaign, to highlight the dangers of scooping fuel. So the agencies on that, not to our director general, the DG of the agency, Malam Lanre Issa Onilu, is already in Niger State coordinating um, activities, enlightenment activities, and some other activities, to mitigate this. He has also issued a directive to all the states and local governments, offices of the agency, to embark on immediate sensitization campaign, um, against fuel scooping, and indeed against fire, disaster, and all that. And I want to add that, as if the DG knew, perhaps was proactive, in December, he instructed the 36 state directorates to embark on safety and security awareness. I was in Bayelsa State then as a state director, and we carried out a robust enlightenment campaign on handling of fuel. Because then, for me, I discovered that if you go to Baisa, in Yenego in particular, everywhere people were selling petroleum product, as if they were hawking pure water. Everywhere, children, you know. You see a woman frying akara. The next shop you see, somebody is hawking food. And I thought that was dangerous. So we put up a team, the Federal Road Safety, the Nigerian Police, and the Fire Service. We organized town hall meetings. We went to communities to enlighten them that this is dangerous. And also, in view of the Hamatan season that was coming, we thought that this could be a recipe for disaster. So we carried out a campaign. And indeed, some other states too carried out a similar campaign, depending on their own local peculiarity. And as I came in, I just came in only a week ago. I was just deployed back to River State a week ago or so. As I came in, the first incident I had was that of a gas explosion. And immediately to have asked all the 23 local government comos to incorporate um, enlightenment on fire disaster, gas in particular, in their programming, to mainstream that in their programming. But now we have a special directive from Abuja that this tanker explosion, which this tanker explosion thing has generated. So we will also incorporate campaign against fuel scooping in whatever we do. Already, I've had some media engagements with some TV stations and all that. And we'll continue with that. We'll do town hall meetings, we'll do stakeholder engagement, we'll call community leaders because you must engage the community. The communities must own this. If you do not engage the communities, these things will continue to happen because this is happening in communities. So that is why it is important to engage them. The NOA, led by the Director General, is in Niger State, and they are doing the needful. But unfortunately, we also had that one happen in Taraba, but thank God, no life or there was no casualty or something like that, you know. So the engagement, the enlightenment campaign will be a continuous one because it does appear that we have to do this again and again to make sure that Nigerians internalize the message that, look, if you see a falling tanker, run away. Do not go near. Call the fire service, call the police so that disaster could be averted.
What are the key objectives of this nationwide campaign as directed by President Bola Tinubu?
Of course, the immediate and the central and immediate objective is to make sure that people are aware of the dangers of scooping fuel so that when scenarios like that occur, people will not go near. The idea is to prevent similar incident or accidents in future. Certainly, accident will occur, like you said, but when it does, how do we respond to it? I think the response is where the response is important because that could mean the difference between life and death. If you see a falling tanker and you run away, that could save your life. But if you see a falling tanker and you just want to scoop food, that could mean your death. So I think the response is more important. Accident will certainly happen. We don't pray for it, but no matter how we try, maybe one or two will occur still.
It is Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable, brought to you by SPDC. We're discussing preventing tragedies, the dangers associated with fuel scooping. My guest is Dr. Edward Banigo, State Director, NOA, River State. We'll go for a break. We'll return momentarily, and this podcast will continue. To stay with us.
Yellow and black markers indicate pipeline and flow line right-of-way boundaries. Your activity could impact on the buried high-pressure hydrocarbon pipelines and flow lines, leading to possible leaks and explosion. Please keep off. Do not engage in sand mining or any form of excavation, pipeline vandalism, oil theft, and bush burning within pipeline and flow line right-of-way. Do not farm, trade, or locate any business on pipeline and flow line right-of-way. It is against the law to apportion land, sell, or build on pipeline and flow line right-of-way. Maintain a setback distance of at least 30 meters or about 100 feet from the right-of-way boundaries always. We care for your safety and that of the environment.
This message is brought to you by the Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria Limited, SPDC, operator of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC Limited, Total Energies, and Ajib Joint Venture.
Hello and welcome back. Still Converse, the Niger-Delta Roundtable, brought to you by SPDC. I'm Dio. Now, and today, sadly so, but necessary nonetheless, we're discussing preventing tragedy, dangers of fuel scooping, and this conversation or this episode of the podcast is necessitated by the unfortunate tragedy played out in Niger State recently. Well, some locals try to help themselves to the contents of a tanker that fell over containing or spewing petroleum products, petrol precisely. There was a fire stemming from an explosion, and over 80 persons are reported to have been killed. from the unfortunate incident. Now, this has sparked national conversations and discussions as to how we can address this to ensure we can avert a future occurrence. The president himself has ordered the National Orientation Agency to commence a nationwide campaign to enlighten Nigerians on the dangers associated with this to ensure that we can prevent this happening in the future. Hence, this conversation. Dr. Banigo, you're welcome again.
Thank you.
Once again, back to the Niger State incident. How did or how has the tank explosion, subsequent deaths of over 80 persons, affected the local community over there in Gurara Local Government Area?
Well, certainly, um, disaster disasters of this size or magnitude will certainly affect not just individuals but or families, but the entire community where it occurs. The community itself is not the same as we speak because, like I said, people have lost loved ones so much, you know, over 80 and all counting. So people have lost, so there's grieving in the land actually. And it has also impacted the community economically. Livelihoods have been lost, shops. There is a man I saw on TV a man who was lamenting the loss of his shop, and that business was employing had over is it 15 or 20 employees, so that is livelihood lost. And what is more, the those who are sick, those who some people may be incapacitated at the end of the day, so it will be extra burden on families to take care. The health facility there has been overstretched. In fact, I think the other time NMA was even appealing to doctors from other states, to come over to help. So it has really that community. It has impacted on that community socially. People may be orphaned, because either they've lost parents. Some may be widowed, because they've lost their spouse or something. So socially, economically, and even environmentally, that community has been impacted, and I think it will require the effort of both state and federal government to at least bring support to that community.
Now, what steps can individuals and communities take to avoid the dangers of field scooping such as we have just witnessed?
The first is to know the danger associated with fuel scooping, which NOA itself is trying to um, do by carrying out campaigns and enlightenments in all communities. Remember, we have offices in all the 774 local governments in Nigeria. So we are trying to reach all communities. So, and we want communities to own this process. Make sure that the community leaders should own this process. Make sure that when incidents like this happen, don't just say it doesn't concern you. Get in touch with maybe the fire service or the local government, or take some action to make sure that your people do not rush to the scene of the incident, just to save life and to avoid this kind of thing. We are also giving out numbers of fire service and those who communities can contact, in events like this. Knowledge, I think knowledge is the key in this. If you know the dangers and if communities own the process, own their space, make sure that if you're a local chief or whatever, a community leader, own that space, because all these things happen in communities. But today people just answer community leaders without taking responsibility for the space they govern. So if all of us, community leaders, youth leaders, if we take responsibility, then some of these things could be averted.
Public enlightenment. The NOA has such responsibilities, and even at this time, you've been tasked by none other than the president himself to embark on a nationwide campaign. But how really can or will public enlightenment help stave off such such things from happening again? And then I ask, and does it really have that much of an impact? A lot of those who are negatively or grossly affected by this, people who even have lost their lives, who are not no longer with us to share any experiences, know that this is bad. A lot of them are adults; they are parents who have children or other beneficiaries, and all of that, and they tell them to abstain from danger. They see children about to touch a naked flame, and they say, "No, don't touch fire. It's dangerous. It would harm you." People who you would assume should know, ought to know. So if these are persons who ought to know, or maybe even did know, but for whatever reason found themselves caught up in this tragedy, how certain are we that even the nationwide campaign, as has been directed by Mr. President, would have any kind of meaningful impact?
Well, thank you for that question. You see, public enlightenment is necessary, but not sufficient to solve the problem. You this is a it's a social problem that will require a multifaceted approach. While they say if you don't teach them, if you don't tell them, don't blame them. So we have to also tell them that look, this is the situation. It is dangerous to go to near this. But while doing that, other organs of government too, or other sectors of society also need to play their own role. You know, um, the way we haulage fuel in this country is that the right way to go? Before now, I think we do have depots here and there, but for some reason, maybe sabotage and some and things like that, those depots are shut down. You know, growing up in Port Harcourt, I do see the Nigerian Railway Corporation, you know, transporting petroleum products from Port Harcourt up north. But those things are not. So we need to take a holistic view about this whole thing. Public enlightenment only cannot, because sometimes they say people don't do what is expected. They only what is inspected. So law enforcement too need to come in. Some of this, like we said in our definition, that some of this is stealing. You know, if maybe one or two persons are also apprehended and prosecuted, perhaps that could serve as a lesson. But because of the human angle to it, with disaster on your hand, pursuing prosecution may be seen as an overkill. So maybe that's why the law enforcement to, hardly take that. But the point is that we have to. The local government must be involved. The state government must be involved. Generally, policies must be put in place to reduce poverty, create awareness, and change values. This quest for money, stealing, perverted value. We need to change this things. So it's a whole lot of things to be done. It's not going to be a 100-meter dash. Generally, changing people's perception, values, and behavior, it's not an easy thing. I can tell you that despite the orientation too, if another tanker tumbles, people will still rush to school fuel. But what public enlightenment will do is that the number will be reduced. Some who had it will learn some lesson. We are told that this is dangerous, so I won't go. So, but when you refuse to or fail to enlighten them at all, then you see a whole community trooping out to partake in this. And I think we also we have what we call the school program. We're also teaching the kids in primary and secondary schools, on the dangers of this. Maybe they can also pass the message to those at home, so that at the end of the day, we reduce the number of casualties if and when this kind of things occur.
You've been with the National Orientation Agency for some time now. You were state director by also until recently you transferred to River State. I suspect that in your years with the NOA and from the work that you've done there, you may, I don't know for certain, but you may have encountered individuals who have directly or indirectly been affected one way or another from such incidents as tanker explosions, people losing their lives and property due to activists or persons who try to scoop or steal those products. And some of them, especially those that may have been affected directly, may still be alive to tell the tale or those indirectly affected who may have lost loved ones or properties for that matter. If you're aware of any such personal experiences of some individuals, did those encounters or experiences have a profound impact on their mindset? Did it change their thinking patterns really? Such that we can use that as a yardstick and say, okay, for these other persons who hear about it or who know about it or impacted somewhere or another, it has or will change their mindset or their perceptions to how to handle such incidents in the future.
Well, I have not. I don't know of any who have been impacted, but um, through scooping. But I think I've seen somebody who been affected by fire too, associated with bullfire. This artisanal refinery,
Illegal artisanal
illegal, yes,
refining.
So I have come across somebody who was affected, and I can tell you, they say experience is the best teacher. That guy, with the experience he has, he will not even go near a fallen tanker. Because experience has a way of teaching us something. And apart from that, if you see a woman who have been involved or witnessed gas explosion, domestic gas explosion, like my mother did, growing up. My mother, growing up, there was a gas explosion that took people's life, and my mother would not even want to see a gas cylinder anywhere around the house, you know. So if you have experienced this, then you know you will learn a big lesson. And I think that this tanker explosion and all that. Before it used to be a Niger Delta thing, Every now and then we hear Niger Delta pipeline a fire explosion here and there, And I think most Niger Deltas have learned, their lesson concerning this kind of thing. And if a similar incident happen, though there could be casualty, but it will not be as much as what we're seeing today in the north, because a lot of people have seen what fuel and fire can do. Either those who have been involved in fire, they've seen. Go to Port Harcourt, you see some people with burns, bright skin and all that. These are fire accidents, and all that, So a lot of people have either seen or experienced or have stories about the dangers of this. So, and I think that lesson either had trickled down to family members, and it has quite impacted on the way they will approach incidents like that.
If you don't mind my asking, what was the experience of that fellow you said had a bad encounter with the bullfire situation?
He was burnt. He was he went to the bush or creekers, and in the process of trying to refine petroleum product,
Illegally, of course.
of course illegally. So I think somebody was smoking or was careless about fire, and there was inferno, and he was affected, and I think he said he managed to jump into the water, but even that didn't. Well, it helped because he survived it. But if you see him, he's ashamed of himself because of the lacerations and the burnt marks and all that. So um, I mean, I think it's something he will live to regret all the time.
What long-term measures or steps do you believe we need to take as a nation to ensure that we have, as much as possible, limited or even zero incidents of this nature happen again?
We should do what other nations are doing. Petroleum products are dangerous. It's not something we should just be ferrying all over the place. Well, we should go back to our initial plan of using pipelines to convey these products, or use the rail system, or use the is it ship? Yes, ferry boats. Along the coastal area. This whole idea of running petrol tanker from Port Harcourt to Sokoto, certainly, even the drivers sometimes they get tired, fatigue steps in. So I think if we want to solve, if we should stop this, the way to go is to use the pipelines.
Mm.
Yes. The pipelines, alternatively, dot refineries here and there so that the haulage time and distance will be minimal.
So what can we all do? Safety is everyone's business,
Business.
everyone's responsibility. Safety of whatever nomenclature or kind. So what can we all do then as Niger Deltans, as Nigerians, to ensure or to promote safety and to prevent fuel-related or fire-related hazards around us?
Well, first, we have to be vigilant. We need vigilance. We need knowledge. We need knowledge, and that knowledge, anyway, will provide it. Federal Fire Service is ready to partner to provide this. We are careless with the issues of safety. A man buys a car, he wouldn't want to buy a fire extinguisher. People run generator, but they wouldn't want to have a fire extinguisher. Only few houses can boast of even fire extinguisher, even public buildings. So we have to change the way we think towards safety. And yes, safety is expensive, but more expensive if you take it for granted. So we have to invest in safety. Even as a state, it's only now that I saw the state fire service being fixed. Otherwise, government come and go, and yet the fire service is there. Nobody talked about it. It talks about it. Meanwhile, health, safety, and security. This is important. The way you are investing in the security too, that's the way you should invest in safety. What's the point being secure but you're unsafe? So we have to change our orientation concerning safety. As individuals, we must act. As community, at community level, we must act. Even at workplaces, we must act to make sure that wherever we are, we're safe. If you're using gas, make sure you check for the expiring date of that gas cylinder. Yes, people will say things are expensive now. Changing gas cylinder is out of the way. But if disaster strikes, you spend far more or even lose your life in the process. So it's always better to do the needful so that you don't end up losing your life or losing so much. Those of you in the media, they say to advertise is expensive, but not to advertise is even more expensive. So some of these things, if we do them, yes, initially to appear, oh, we're wasting money. No, we're not wasting money. We are protecting lives. We are protecting the environment. We are protecting our neighbors. So we must all act together. They say security is every man's business. So also is safety, because it's all about protecting and preserving life and property.
Now, taking precaution is obviously the sensible thing to do. But as tragic as the Niger State incident, for example, is, and the very alarming number of persons who were impacted by that incident, comparatively speaking, those numbers may seem insignificant, infinitesimal even. Well, it's sad to lose any one person, but 80 people or more compared to a population of about 200 million might seem like not a lot.
Yeah.
So why should the rest of us really bother? I mean, it's not like these things are happening every other day. It's not like people are dying from petrol tankers exploding or even gas cylinders exploding every single day. It's not the norm.
Well, my dear, 80 souls, I mean, it's so much. Yes, people will tell you compared to the population of this country, maybe no, but even one soul is so much. Because among the dead there, nobody knows whether there's a genius among them who would have been able to solve some of the problems we're facing in this country. So it is important to make sure that we lose nobody in, be it accident or disasters like this. I do not agree with you that losing 80 persons is insignificant vis-a-vis the population of our country. We must do everything to protect every Nigerian. We must do everything. And as a citizen of this country, even the Constitution guarantees you right to life. So the government and society owes you that obligation to make sure that your life is protected. So whatever we can do as a people, to preserve our community, to preserve our environment, and to protect life, must be done, no matter how much it costs, no matter how much it will cost us as individuals or as a government.
What if, the resultant effect of a petrol tanker exploding or any other fire hazard for that matter is not my portion?
You're now going the spiritual way, which most Nigerians are known for, because if you most Nigerians believe that God is on their side and all that. Like if sometimes when I travel to Bonny, say Riverine, you see a boat overloaded, rickety boat. I say, look, people will be praying. I say, no, it's not a question of prayer. It's a question of doing the right thing. The man who travels with LNG boat hardly prays. You see them, they are just relaxed, When they go down, when they get to Bonny, they just go down. Why? Because they've done the right thing. They are traveling with the right boat. There are safety precautions put in place and all that. But you're just testing God and praying. No, it doesn't work that way. We should set aside, yes, God is there, but we also have to do the needful. If you have a house, have fire extinguisher, at least when there's fire, you can put it off. God has given you the idea to do that. Must we always wait for God to come and do all these things for us? No. I know that our religiosity in Nigeria is something else, but we have to tone it down and do the needful.
Maybe the final question I'll ask you now. What will be the nature of this nationwide campaign as ordered by the president? How does the NO intend to implement the campaign?
Well, first, we've been asked to do town hall meetings, stakeholders engagement. Then we'll cascade that to the local government, the COMOs, the community orientation and mobilization officers who hold similar town hall meetings at the local government. Then after that, after the flag off, then they'll go to communities and schools to talk to people, because we want physical engagement. We want to talk to people one-on-one, talk to schools one-on-one. Already, the agency has produced over jingles in about 200 languages. This will be rolled out. And of course, we will mainstream this incident to this campaign in all our engagements. And of course, what we're doing today too is part of it. Media, all the media engagements, we'll talk about this thing. When we talk this thing over and over, perhaps some Nigerians, not all Nigerians, will imbibe the culture of safety.
Any final words?
Well, I want my final word is that Niger-Deltans and Nigerians should remain safe. Change your attitude. Make sure safety is a top priority in whatever you do, at home, in the office, and in your community.
And that's it for this episode of Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable. We have discussed preventing tragedy of any kind. It's very important. But specifically for the context of this conversation, the dangers associated with fuel scooping when tankers fall over or any other similar situation. And by the way, in case you did not know and you thought you were helping yourself, it actually is theft. You're stealing. So prevent that, avoid that, and stay safe. And thanks for watching. And thanks also to my guest, Dr. Edward Banigo, State Director, National Orientation Agency here in River State. Dr. Banigo, many thanks for your time.
Dayo, thank you for this opportunity. I thank Canvas for inviting me. Thank you.
Remember to stay safe once again. Safety, as my guest has mentioned, is everyone's responsibility. The program Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable was brought to you by SPDC. I'm Dayo Lishakin. Have yourself a safe rest of your day. Bye for now.